considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland, are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No. Economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada.
Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar, your host, and today I'm going to talk about incoming President Donald Trump's plans to expand the territorial boundaries of the United States by annexing or adding or buying Greenland, Canada, and the Panama Canal. It's not very clear whether Donald Trump is acting as the commander-in-chief or as a clown-in-chief, because some of his statements sound really funny, but if taken seriously, they can have an incredibly disrupting impact on global politics, on the global order, the image of the United States. But who knows? Maybe the expansion of the United States might be on the cards. So we will talk about that. But before that, please subscribe to Khanversations, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this video with the rest of your social and political network. So President Donald Trump, the incoming President Donald Trump, the 47th president, has made many, many promises and many, many pronunciations. And since his election, he is practically acting as if he is already the president of the United States, negotiating and meeting with international leaders. He's already spoken with Trudeau, who visited him in his home in Florida at Mar-a-Lago. Most recently, the president of Italy also visited him. So he's already conducting foreign policy while he's putting together his team. And he's been making many pronouncements, and he has threatened to impose tariffs on BRICS if they pursue de-dollarization. He has promised to impose tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and definitely China, and so on and so forth. But the most interesting and funny comments that he has recently made that we are going to discuss today is his insistence, and he said this quite a few times now, that he wants to make Canada the 51st state of the United States. He has promised the Canadians low taxes and no tariffs if they become part of the United States willingly. But he's talked about Greenland too. He's talked about either buying Greenland from Denmark or taking it back or taking it by forces. And he has not excluded the use of force either for Greenland or the Panama Canal. So let's take his pronouncements on face value and see how serious they really are. But before I talk about Donald Trump, I want to go back and talk about one of America's grand strategies or ideologies of manifest destiny. Manifest destiny is an ideology which believes that white Americans are going to dominate the entire continent of North America. And it is their belief that God has destined white Americans to expand from coast to coast, from East Coast to West Coast. So if you look at this map, this actually tells you how the United States has expanded since its independence. So if you look at the green part on the map that shows dated 1783, it is comprised of the 13 counties, which 13 states that originally constituted the United States. That is 1783. And then you can see that in 1803, the Louisiana Purchase from France, the United States bought that entire territory. If you can see, that's all in yellow from the French. And so the United States practically doubled its size with the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. And then you can see that in 1818, the British, who were controlling what is today's Canada, Canada is still part of the Commonwealth in that sense. The King of England is sort of head of state of Canada. So Great Britain basically ceded the Red River Basin in 1818. And then you can see Florida became part of the United States. It was given to or ceded by Spain in 1819. And you can see that subsequently Texas was annexed from Mexico. Most of California was also taken from Mexico. And then you can see the Oregon area and the northeastern tip all came from Britain. So basically by 1840s or 1853, really, the United States had expanded coast to coast and fulfilled its manifest destiny. But if you still look at continental North America, you see the United States has expanded coast to coast from east to west, but it hasn't fully expanded north to south. So is this what Donald Trump is trying to do? So let me share this map that Donald Trump himself shared, where he basically shows Canada as part of the United States. It's a funny map. He shared it a couple of days ago, and of course, it has gone viral on X and other social media. But take a look at the actual map of North America. I had never looked at it this way. You know, the maps that we see are quite different. They look like this mostly. So usually we, like, at least I got the impression that Greenland was closer to Europe since it's part of Denmark. But if you actually look at the map, if you look at the northern part of Canada, no, the northern part of Canada is mostly an archipelago. There are so many islands there. And so you could argue that the biggest island in the northern part of Canada is Greenland. It is closer to Canada and US than I think it is to Europe. So it kind of makes sense. You know, it sounds ridiculous even talking and thinking about it, but it kind of makes sense if Canada does become a part of the United States and becomes the 51st state. Either Greenland could become part of the 51st state of Canada, or it could become the 52nd state of the United States. So this is doable, and it's not that the US has not bought territory from Denmark before. Denmark sold the Virgin Islands to the United States in the past, I think somewhere in the early 1920s or 1915s, around that time. So it is not unheard of. And as you can see, the US has bought a lot of territory. Even Alaska was bought from Russia. And it is not connected to the mainland of the United States. So I think the idea of Greenland becoming part of the United States is not very far-fetched. Frankly, as a person who's interested in international relations and geopolitics, I would really love to see what the rest of the world would do if Donald Trump moves in a few 100,000 troops into Greenland and actually takes it by force. Of course, it will completely undermine the so-called rule-based order that America promotes and says that we don't live in an era of territorial expansion through war. Of course, that is accepting Israel. Israel is the only country which is allowed to expand its borders using force and genocide, but no other country is allowed to do that. So will the United States itself go against the rules that it has been enforcing globally for all these years? So that would be very interesting. But from a strategic point of view, it does make sense, given the fact that there's perceptions that there are lots of wealth in terms of minerals hidden under Greenland. And as the global warming continues, we may need more land and in the north. And of course, we might be able to harvest all the goodies that are buried deep inside Greenland. Plus, it's also close to the Arctic, and there's already a competition between great powers for control of the Arctic. So in that sense, it kind of makes, I don't know, if you were thinking of in terms of 19th century, it does make sense for Greenland to become part of the United States. But this is the 21st century. This is the era of the liberal order of international law and international norms. Of course, it is still possible if they can have a referendum in Greenland, and if the United States makes huge financial promises, who knows? The people of Greenland may want to vote and become part of the United States. Let us see. As far as South America is concerned, I mean, it's very critical that that the Panama Canal is fundamental to the United States trade. Apparently, 40% of all the ships that go through the Panama Canal are American ships, and the cost or the fees of each ship is anywhere between $500,000 to $1 million. So, I mean, if it becomes part of the United States, we will probably save hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of transportation. You can see from this map how critical it is. It is the Suez Canal of the Americas in many ways. Just as because of Suez Canal, you didn't need to go all around Africa. because of the Panama Canal. If you move things from San Francisco to New York or to Wilmington or to Philadelphia, you don't have to go all the way around the 12,000 miles extra trek around South America. I think this is probably something of all his goals. The least probable one is Canada, and the highest probability of success, I think, is with Panama Canal, because there are genuinely national security interests there. China is also taking a lot of interest in Panama Canal. China is also trying to build a bigger canal in Nicaragua. So for the United States to make the case, and I think the U.S. could in some way make the case that the U.S. should have at least security control of the Panama Canal, if not ownership of the canal itself. So of the three goals, I think that he has for territorial expansion, the probability of getting the Panama Canal back is much higher than either Canada or Greenland. I recently tweeted that one way in which Canada could become Trump-proof is that if they were to take in like 5 to 10 million black and brown people with science degrees and just give them instantaneously US Canadian citizenship, find out the best engineers, best doctors in the world who are black and brown, and then give them Canadian citizenship. I'm not very sure whether the United States would want to take the Canadians with 10 million extra non-white people, because one of the underlying values that shape Donald Trump's and his colleagues' ideology is white supremacy. There's no doubt about it. All this is about restoring the manifest destiny, the domination of white people in North America. So if a lot of brown and black people are going to come with Canada, it'll become far less attractive. And without Canada, I think the possibility of getting Greenland may become less feasible. But what is, from a strategic point of view, what is critical is that all of this talk of territorial expansion will completely undermine US transatlantic relations, basically. This is going to distance Europe further and further away. Europe is already talking about responding in a very tough manner. They want to come back, hit hard. Those are the words that European leaders used when they met in Brussels. If Donald Trump were to impose tariffs across the board, they plan to hit back at the United States. But it is also attracting more and more foreign direct investments in the United States, as German car manufacturers, for example, are investing in the United States so they can make their cars in the US and sell in the US to get around the tariffs. So in a way, the tariffs has become a way of attracting foreign direct investments into the United States. If you want the US market, invest in the US. So in a kind of a weird way, some of the things that Donald Trump is saying might help the US, but will also hurt the US in the long way. I think the US will become internationally extremely isolated. One of the key strengths of the US has been its partnership with the US, with Europe, NATO, EU, and it has helped the US literally dominate the world, especially through multilateral institutions where Europeans usually follow the US lead. But to give some credence to what Donald Trump is saying, the US has really carried Europe since World War II. We spent billions of dollars in rebuilding Europe through Marshall Plan. And then even now, we are spending hundreds of billions of dollars for European security by supporting Ukraine. Russia is a much bigger and imminent threat to European security and not to the United States. So the US is really investing not just in European security, but also in European prosperity for the last 75 plus years. So perhaps giving Greenland to the United States might be an appropriate way to thank the US for its support for Europe. I'm all for it. I would love to see the United States get Greenland. I'll be happy to go and buy a house or a small townhouse or an apartment building so that I can go there in the summers and do my writing there and do my shows from Greenland if it becomes part of the United States. On a serious note, I think this fatwa-giri that Donald Trump has resorted to, issuing fatwas, I will take Panama, I will take Greenland, I will do, is not exactly a proper way of doing foreign policy. if they really want to expand the U.S., which is going to completely undermine the post-World War II norms and legal systems under which the world has been surviving. But a strategy paper is expected, I guess, to lay out the policy, the pros and cons of pursuing these lavish and grandiose and I don't know plans to expand the U.S. But what is interesting is that the U.S. has always been an expansionist power, and so I'm not surprised that as we go back to the good old days of the United States, we will be seeking to expand. I wonder what's next on Donald Trump's agenda, return to slavery? So I'm going to stop with that. And so if you have not already subscribed to Khanversations, do subscribe to Khanversations, like this video, press the bell icon, and share this video with your social political network. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtedar Khan. Take care.